Hi, JamesAnimalHarrison. It's a new lesson day, and today it's beginning of December. We're going to dive head first or jump into the rabbit hole of shuffles. And so for every lesson in December, we're going to talk about a different shuffle. But today we're going to just get you started on shuffles and talk about a lot of the different kinds. If you feel like you already know your shuffles, then fine. Pass this on to somebody you think that may not. And I do want to say, although there seems to be a lot of labels for shuffles, like the Texas Shuffle, the Chicago Shuffle, Kansas City Shuffle, whatever. There's so many different types of shuffles. To me, there's primarily either blues shuffles, or rock shuffles, or jazz shuffles. I mean, there's a country shuffle and stuff too, but they're all related. They're all intertwined. There's just subtle differences and what you emphasize on the kit more that make the biggest difference. I've heard and seen videos describing the Chicago Shuffle and the Texas Shuffle that are playing exactly the same thing. And they say, well, this is the Texas Shuffle, and then I see people playing or talking about the Texas Shuffle who are from Texas and say, well, no, this is the Texas Shuffle. So I don't really know. I really do feel that if you're playing with somebody and you're just playing an appropriate groove, don't play a rock-oriented shuffle if you're playing in a blues gig that's not blues rock. As long as you're grooving and it feels good, nobody's going to give you a hard time about it or care about it. But it does help to kind of know some of the subtle differences. So again, I feel like shuffles are like barbecue. You know, the barbecue in Kansas City is different than the barbecue in Texas, or the barbecue in Chicago, or the barbecue in Memphis, and whatever. Just like the shuffles and the feels of the beats are different. And that's the way I'm going to look at it. So, in its most basic form, a shuffle is nothing more than the sound of skipping. When you were a child, you probably skipped. You don't do it as an adult, I get that, but we probably all did it as a child. And the basic difference is, instead of like in rock music, you have an 8th note on the hi-hat, typically going something like this. Like a 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now, if you shuffle that, like the sound your feet make when you skip, which is, I'll put it on both bass drums. Right, left, right. It has a skip or a shuffle to it. So if you took that same right hand and went from this then you are shuffling. So in its most basic form, if you know how to play a beginning rock beat and you shuffle the right hand, it would work as a shuffle. It's not a very interesting shuffle unless you put a lot of things around it that make it feel really good. But in its most basic rock beat, we're going to turn that to a shuffle just to start with. So there's a beginning shuffle. Again, it's not super interesting. There's a lot you can do with it, but there it is in its most basic form. So that's a shuffle if you don't understand what it is. Now, most of the shuffles seem to have derived out of the jazz and the blues influence. And so a lot of times what you're going to hear in the blues-oriented things is what we call a double shuffle, or a lot of people call it a double shuffle. And what that means is both hands are shuffling. In its most basic form, it's basically this. I want to put 4 on the floor and 2 and 4. 4 and floor means 4 notes on the bass drum. 2 and 4 on the hi-hat. In its most basic form, that's a blues shuffle. Now, this is where it starts to get a little more hairy. We can start to accent beat 2 and 4. A lot of people say in the Chicago Shuffle that you accent the right cymbal as well on 2 and 4, and the hi-hat is playing quarter notes, 4 on the floor with the bass drum. Some Some people will say that's a Texas shuffle. To me, the Texas shuffle only has the hi-hat on 2 and 4, but basically does that same thing. By the way, what I'm doing on the cymbal, I'm hitting the shoulder of the stick across the bow of the cymbal. You can accent that. The more heavy gig you're playing, you can actually play a rim shot. A lot of times on that Texas shuffle, you'll actually hear the first note left out. So it's one. Another thing you'll hear in the Texas shuffle sometimes is just straight quarter notes. Chris Layton from Stevie Ray Vaughan does like a drag or a press like one. So it leads into the groove. Sometimes he does it on beat 4, sometimes it's every time. Sometimes you'll hear it like that. Sometimes you'll hear him play a jazz ride. You'll often hear the jazz ride on all the shuffles. So if I play the basic double shuffle, put that with a jazz ride. I could do all those type of things with that. So again, you're going to find it's not worth a fight. It's not worth an argument. Just if somebody says, "Oh, it's this way," take it, learn it, and learn another shuffle. I've seen it done both ways and whatnot. Sometimes you'll hear when you get to more of the rock-oriented things, the shuffle moves to the bass drum because we play more rock from a bottom-up, heavier type thing. So you'll often hear the hand in the bass drum shuffle and then the backbeat on the snare. You hear that on the hi-hat. And some of the more progressive fusion or cool rock grooves, you'll hear ghost notes in there too. I'll do the hands only. Super fast. Okay, that's more of a rock shuffle. Sometimes you'll even hear it so heavy that they just kind of slosh the hi-hats or the cymbals and play quarter notes and 2 and 4 on the snare and just shuffle the bass drum. Okay, it's not uncommon to hear that almost shuffle with the bass drum hitting all 4. You even hear that kind of thing. Sometimes we just do a couple of notes on the bass drum. If I do that with a cross streak, we're leaning more into the country shuffle. Steve Gadd will sometimes play nothing but quarter notes on the ride cymbal with the shoulder of the stick. Play 2 and 4 on the snare and put the shuffle in the hi-hat. So you get like between the feet is this. play at certain tempos and heel up on the hi-hat. And it kind of leans into the Hot for Teacher double shuffle on the bass drum, which is the thing like that, and he does a thing on the bell. But, you know, that's a double bass shuffle. So there's another cool shuffle you hear from Stevie Ray Vaughan or from Chris Slayton, where they play, some people call it a flat tire shuffle, but you're playing the third note of the triplet. I like that one a lot. I don't know if I could do this one. There's one I've heard Steve Gadd do, and I messed around with it once, but I don't really use it. But he plays the quarter notes with that shoulder part, and he does the third note of the triplet of beat 1. And he does quarter notes on the bass and 2 and 4. Okay, so again, if you jump down this rabbit hole, there's so many versions and variations. Another super popular one, it's a halftime shuffle. So instead of playing on 2 and 4, you're just going to move the snare to 3. In its most basic form, it's this. 1, 2. One you hear a lot is another cool variation is to put ghost notes in there. This kind of leans toward the Bernard Purdie shuffle. If you don't know who that is, Google him. Played with Steely Dan, tons of Motown stuff, and kind of credited with the halftime shuffle with the ghost notes. But starts to lean toward the Jeff Porcaro Rosanna shuffle, or if you put it on 2 and 4, the Boz Scaggs Lido shuffle, which is Jeff Porcaro, some of the Steely Dan stuff, John Bonham's Fool in the Rain, all those are shuffles with the ghost notes and stuff in there. Another really cool shuffle that, boy, I don't know if I can do it because I haven't done this for a long, long time. And originally when I learned this song when I was a kid, I didn't learn it correctly. But to me, this is a form of a Texas shuffle where Frank Beard, the drummer for ZZ Top, actually plays a shuffle between the hands and the feet in quarter notes on either the hi-hat or the ride cymbal on the tune LaGrange. I'll play it on the hi-hat for now, but it's basically shuffling. Or you can hammer. Jump right into without warming up a little bit more, especially when you try to think of the tempo that he plays it at. So anyway, there's my point. You can do no wrong unless you're just totally out of the ballpark, as long as you're grooving in it. But it's a great way to learn a bunch of beats, and there's a lot more that I didn't mean to get into. But that's just scratching the surface. And like I said, every Wednesday in December will be a lesson on a tune that uses a shuffle. So scratch the surface, jump in, have fun with it.